says live on YouTube.
Okay.
Still loading on my screen, but I think we should be good to go ahead.
Okay. So we're waiting for a few people, but it is 5:30, actually 5:31. So we'll start the planning board pre-meeting for September 28th, 2020. I guess, Melena, maybe you can start right out with item number 1 and give us a little rundown on.
I can. A couple of housekeeping things before I jump into the agenda. 120 Court Street, the first item that's been tabled for the last, I believe, 2 months, has called us and asked us to remove them from the agenda. We do not have that in writing, so Shalice is going to email them and have them put that in writing, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that they did ask to be removed from the agenda. And then 12 Allen Street, Dean Lajoie's project, he has requested to be moved to the top of the agenda so he doesn't have to wait through the prime stuff, but obviously, you know, that's just a request and you guys can consider it if you want to. His project was at Sketch last month. He did respond to all of the comments. I actually didn't have any technical review comments. He responded to everything, included everything in his plan, so there shouldn't be much discussion. It should be pretty quick, but it's up to you if you want to move him to the top of the agenda. And the third item was what you had said earlier, Jim, just a quick discussion with the members about meeting in person going forward.
Okay.
Do you want to have that discussion first, or do you want me to go through the agenda?
Why don't we go through the agenda? Well, why don't we go through the agenda first?
Okay.
Make sure we're not missing stuff.
Okay.
Right off the top, the one request about 12 Allen Street. I mean, we've surely made the accommodations over the last several months to move the Durkee Street project to the front of the agenda. I think, you know, I guess it's up to the board if we move one, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's become a question of moving all. So
Right. You just had made that request, so I figured I'd let you guys know.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the agenda, the first item, like I said, 120 Court Street, that's been tabled for the last few months, has requested to be removed from the agenda. So we can make that motion tonight. Number 2 and 3, the Durkee Street projects. So they have come back to you guys with additional modifications, not major ones from the last time. It's kind of a, like I said in my email, a meet in the middle of the site plan from March and the site plan you saw last month with the reduced residential apartments and increased commercial space. So the new site plan is still a reduction in residential units from the original plan. It's 109 now. And the commercial square footage is back to the 13,400, which was part of the original plan. So the reason for the modification is essentially because the zoning board had some concerns in regards to the increase in demand for parking because of the increase in commercial space. So even though Chazen did a parking study looking at that parking demand and made a determination that the SAD could support the 10 additional spaces that the site would need based on that huge increase in commercial space, the project still felt like they wanted to appease the zoning board, and so they made some modifications. So they'll be on the call tonight. They can walk us through everything. Like I said, it's nothing major. The Common Council is not going to have to amend their finding statement. We're not going to have to go back to the county because the county has essentially already reviewed this lower number of residential units and this square footage of commercial space. So it's nothing outside of anything that they've already reviewed. It's just going to be some updating on our end for our finding statements to make sure that the numbers are correct. But again, Prime can go through those with us tonight. I did put the updated site plan in our PowerPoint and the corresponding updated floor plans for each level. So we'll be able to walk through those. Other than that, I don't really have anything else for them. The next one on the agenda is 12 Allen Street. You guys heard this minor subdivision last month at Sketch. It was just a simple one lot into 2 new developable lots on Allen Street in South Plattsburgh. I didn't really have too many comments last month. I think they're mostly just about, details on the plat, including, water and sewer laterals showing approximately where the driveways would be, setbacks, etc. and Dean has updated the plans to show all those details. So he's just back for seeker determination and a final detailed plat review tonight. Next one is 72 Brinkerhoff Street. So this should be a fun one. I don't know if you guys have reviewed a project like this before. So this is new construction in a historic district. It's pretty interesting. The applicant has provided a rendering of what they're proposing on site, some initial site plan details, materials list, etc. So basically you're going to review the project, making sure that it's compatible with the Brinkerhoff Historic District, make some recommendations, etc. I don't know if, they'll be able to get an approval tonight, or if you guys want to just, use this as a conversation, feedback workshop, etc. for them, and then they can come back at a later time, and if there's any major modifications. Otherwise, I mean, you have everything you need, I think, to make a determination tonight. It's just really up to you. And then the last item, 114 Cornelia Street. So this is St. Peter's Rectory. They are back in front of you this time to do a replacement of the concrete steps on the front of the rectory. So they plan on doing an exact replica replacement of the stairs, everything from the shape, size, materials will all be exactly the same. They did submit a couple different plan views, some materials images, before and after pictures, etc. So their application is complete and they're looking for an approval tonight. And I didn't have any comments for that one. It was a complete application. I will say though, 72 Brinkerhoff Street and 114 Cornelia Street were both sent to SHPO. It wasn't a requirement, but just to get their feedback, especially for 72 Brinkerhoff Street, I felt more comfortable having SHPO review that since it is new construction. We do have letters from them. They were part of your packet, and I have them in the PowerPoint tonight that we can go over.
Now, I looked at that 72 Brinkerhoff Street, and SHPO did issue a letter which basically commented on the building's appropriate size for the site, but it really didn't. I think it even made comment that the site was in a district, but not a historic. Historic structure is no longer there.
Right.
Correct. So it didn't really address what I see as perhaps maybe the review tonight as to what is being built there.
Yeah, it's a little interesting. Shalice had found some documentation in regards to new construction in historic districts, and I went through it, and the standards are much more flexible for new construction than if you're modifying an existing historic structure. So I think they kind of are leaving it up to you guys to, review the details with the applicant. The standards that I was reading in that document are basically outline making sure that the building is compatible, but it doesn't have to be an exact replica. Obviously you don't want to build a steel structure with a bunch of windows in a predominantly Victorian neighborhood, but as long as some of the characteristics are complementary, there really isn't a whole lot of structural, like prescriptive review for new construction. So I'm assuming SHPO just doesn't want to get into that because it's more subjective than anything.
Well, let me remind you that the building directly across the street, okay, that was built from scratch was originally a teeny tiny little red brick house that practically sat on the property line and was falling apart.
I was curious about that. I have a picture of that in my slideshow and I was like, this looks like a new building.
Yeah, and he came to us and wanted to tear it down and put up a new building, and we went through all those. I was not on the planning board then, but I know the planning board, and of course he needed variances, so he came in front of the zoning board too, because corner lots always a nightmare. And so what he was given permission to build clearly is fairly modern looking, but blends nicely with the neighborhood. So it's the blending part. If you're going from scratch, it's the blending part.
I'm glad you brought up that building because I was curious about it. Very cool. Do you guys have any questions or comments about any of these projects? I know I went through that kind of fast.
So on the 72 Brinkerhoff, and you're talking about blending. In your review of these standards, what should we be looking for level of finishes?
They're proposing vinyl, and I don't have a problem with vinyl if you're not trying to put vinyl on an 1880 house. They're putting vinyl on a brand new house. But I think what I would suggest is we got to make sure it's not shiny vinyl, okay? I think some kind of matte vinyl and trim that is not jarring, I think is fine. And vinyl windows, fine, whatever. It's a new building, as long as the style tends to blend. The porch is great. The only thing I think that I noticed in the description, they keep talking about the house that burned being a certain style, and they're not quoting the right style, but it's just narrative. So
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that document said to look for was massing, height, in relation to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And any other architectural characteristics that are similar, like, the porch, like Marissa mentioned,
Yeah.
big, predominant porches. I know the old home did have a hipped roof. This one does not, but
and it doesn't have a porte cochere, but
Right, or
that
a
would be right up
tower
to the
or-
property line. That would need a variance. The other thing with this 72 Brinkerhoff, probably in the history, you'd probably have to ask Joe, and we won't get that answer tonight. The kind of strange fence in the back along the north lot line that's made of doors, okay, went up without a permit. Then they came in front of the zoning board to get a permit, and we told them they needed to cut down the part that was in the front yard setback to the correct height. I believe they did not get a height variance for that kind of strange fence they put up. And then they sold the building, and then nobody enforced it, and it's still up. Okay, so that fence is not blessed, has no permit, never got permission to be there, needs to be addressed, is not a typical historic fence that, made of doors for that neighborhood. So
That's in the backyard?
yeah, it's in the
This lot?
backyard. It goes along the backyard with the next property over that's on North Catherine.
Okay, that brings up a good point. One of my comments was they didn't talk about any fencing for the front yard, and so maybe we'll just ask them if they plan on having any fencing.
Yeah, so that would be something that, let's get it cured, okay, now that they're in front of us, okay?
What about their identification of the most recent use?
Yeah, I wasn't real thrilled with that either.
Well, had it not been given an approval by the zoning board for the use that they did have, this new use that they identified wasn't approved anywhere.
No.
But
Yeah.
I'd like to know a little bit more, being it's the same owner, is it their intent to continue that use, and how many people were living in there?
I don't think it's the same owner. Didn't it get sold? It was up for
This
sale.
is a new owner.
No,
No, it's sold.
It's sold. It's a completely new, it was an LLC before, and
was it?
yeah, and this person bought it without actually having the contract subject to getting all zoning and planning board approvals, which I'm surprised, but they went ahead and bought the lot, bang.
Yeah, well, my point is, are they under the assumption that this was a fraternity house?
I don't know, but we can certainly
it would
make
be a
sure
good
it's quoted
question.
that it's not.
Hey, Shalice,
Yeah.
Dean
Yeah.
Lashway just emailed and said he did not get an invite for the Zoom meeting tonight. Can you forward one to him?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just had a couple questions on Prime if we're done with 72 Rink.
Yeah,
Okay.
that should be fine.
So I just wanted to check in with you, Marissa, make sure, did you get a chance to go through the finding statement?
Oh, yeah, went through the finding statements. I watched the meeting that I missed. I watched the county planning board's meeting. I watched the zoning board meeting. When I have time, I try to do it all. So I've read it all. I read the comments, and even including the one lady who thought it was going to be low-income housing. I thought that was interesting.
Hmm.
I don't know what tax bracket she's thinking about, but I'm thinking these are not low-income housing units.
No.
Sorry,
Uh,
Melina. Can you send me Dean's email again? I've got one in there, and I believe it's his correct one. I resent it, but can you just send me his email so I can make sure it's the right one?
Yep.
Thank you.
So anyway, yes, I've read everything. I'm ready.
Okay, so then I think just what will happen now is Melina will just update with the newest numbers that we just got today, and then we will all have the most up-to-date version. You put that on Dropbox, Melena, and let us know.
I sure can.
Okay, cool. And then we can, well, at least have that pretty well situated for whenever the time comes that we can do something about it. So yeah, at this point, we're still holding pattern with Prime as far as being able to take any action. County Planning Board, I forget if that had already occurred.
They
last
did.
week.
It was on the 15th. It was 6-2 as a negative.
Yeah, that was a funky meeting, but so anyway, they disapproved again. So in zoning board,
That meeting makes our meetings look really well run.
yeah, absolutely. So and then zoning is waiting until they get their investigation cleared up with the city council. So sounds like once that is cleared up and the attorney and all that stuff, then they will hopefully start making forward progress again on that. And then we can do something once they take a vote. So, let's see. That's all I had, I think, as far as the questions on that. So we're
Okay.
pretty much just going to listen to Prime and Melena explain the changes tonight.
Yep.
Okay.
Did anyone else have any other application related questions? If not, then the two last items in front of us is number one. Are we going to entertain moving anybody around on the agenda?
I would like to entertain moving 12 Allen just because I feel like it's going to be a quickie. It's a 10-minute top of the agenda item. There's nothing exciting going on in this, and we could get this approved and off the agenda.
Okay, then I think we base that on we had a specific request from that applicant to move.
None of us have an interest in that property or we wouldn't be voting, so I think it's fine.
No. Anybody else have comments on that? Okay. If
And
not,
is Dean in? Did he get in? Well, we can't go
And
to it.
then
If he's not here, we can't go to it.
well,
I mean, Prime shouldn't be incredibly long either,
Yeah.
as far as I can tell, right, Melena?
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, of what you think, yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. I mean, that's because it's up for the final. We've already gone through it. He asked, and it's going to be really quick, I would think. Then that makes sense to not have to move everybody else too.
okay. Then so long as the applicant is there at the beginning of the meeting, we will move item number 4, 12 Allen Street to the front of the agenda. Item number 1 on 120 Court Street. Without that in writing, I think we still leave it tabled on the agenda. And next month, if we receive something in writing between now and next month, we'll remove it next month.
Okay.
And the last item was an item that I had brought up earlier in the meeting. I don't think it's here yet, but to have the discussion about transitioning our board meetings back to normal meetings in person, adhering to all the appropriate guidelines you need to adhere to, but once again, being back in City Hall and conducting meetings. And I wasn't sure if any board members have a specific opinion about that or not.
Are we allowed now by the governor, or it's been lifted?
Common Council has been meeting for a few months now, and they have the room set up so that everybody is, socially distanced 6 feet, and they only have a certain number of chairs in there. So the room is prepared to have in-person meetings. I think you can have meetings up to 50 people right now in person.
And we do have other local municipalities out of the area that are doing, looking at it both ways. Some boards are definitely meeting in person. Others are still doing the Zoom. My preference is to transition back to having in-person meetings if they allow, with the appropriate protocols, if it's allowed and we can meet it. And
Can I ask, would we still be doing some Zoom? In other words, could we allow people to Zoom in? I think it's because there's going to be plenty of, say, elderly people that still don't want to come and be in a room full of people and would like to participate. Or even if they don't want to participate, like me, just watch it later when they have time and be able to be at the meeting by watching it, even though you don't get to participate. So that's going to continue, right?
Sure, we could do a hybrid.
I think we should. I mean, I really, because it's accommodating to a lot of people that perhaps can't get to City Hall.
Yep.
and I think that is part of the transition, starting with the board, making a conscious decision that, we're going to start meetings again and, meeting in protocol. And then you will have some combination of Zoom, people coming in on Zoom. Some people will want to show up to the meeting. So.
I guess just my personal is I'm fine with the way it is with Zoom right now. And just now I've got 2 kids and they're in school. And I mean, if there's any type of sniffle, fever, cough, they've got to go home and they've got to get a COVID test and they're out for 48 hours until they get that test. And we just went through it since Thursday with my kids. But so, and I mean, I don't necessarily think that it's a huge super spreader, event that we're going to be having. But that's just my personal feeling. And I'm okay doing either one. And I will still show up for, in-person meetings, but Zoom to me is still a good option at this point.
Can we also have membership elect whether or not they want to be in person or via Zoom? Should be no reason you shouldn't allow that.
I think the only thing that needs to be worked out, and I don't know if that's in City Hall or not, is there needs to be some kind of big screen where all of us who are there in person can see the person who's talking on Zoom and hear them well.
Right.
Because Milena, you're going to be using the super big screen to project whatever, papers that we need to look at. But ideally, we want the person who's talking to us that's part of the board, or an applicant, if they're Zooming from home, to be on some kind of big TV. Do they have anything like that set up, a big screen?
We do have a TV we could use.
Yeah, because I think maybe we could borrow the one that's out in the main hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and set that up and have that be the image of whoever the other person is that's talking at the moment. Because otherwise it's really tough if it's just a voice projected around the room without seeing the person's face.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we need to have some kind of dry run mixed meeting as just a practice session, and maybe we could discuss upcoming plan, the community development plan, whatever, so that we're discussing something, but that we're also practicing how it's going to work.
Well, and the people at home too, to be and presenters that may be at home, or board members that may be at home, to be able to see, because I know you can watch it on YouTube at this point.
And
live.
it's like if you watch the Common Council, you see the Common
Yeah.
Council, you can't tell who's talking because they have masks on. You have to recognize the voice or look for hand gestures. And then whoever's talking to them, you see the back of their head. It's pretty awful. Okay. I think it could be better somehow.
My personal opinion, I'm not certain there's a compelling reason to transition, Jim, at this point. We're heading into the colder weather seasons. There's still a lot of unknowns. There's an uptick, in several states at this point, as well as New York City. I would be more inclined to hold off at this point.
So I guess bottom line is that there are some members that may be interested, some that are definitely not. And either way, we would either be continuing with this or doing some type of hybrid model, giving the option to everybody, basically.
I would favor the hybrid model personally, because it does give, let's face it, getting through COVID is going to be an individual choice in the end.
Yep.
You're going to make decisions that, are more suited for you as an individual. And hey, I think the meeting should carry that social context with it. That's my opinion.
Okay. Okay. I think either way, I think it sounds like we should be prepared for some type of hybrid model, which we will have to implement eventually regardless.
Right.
So I'll work with staff and come up with the best way to approach that. And it may be we continue with these meetings just as we're doing now for a couple more months or more. We'll see what happens, but at least start developing what that hybrid model would be.
Okay, sounds good.
It's a good plan.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any other items? We actually have 3 minutes left, which is unusual in pre-meeting.
Will Kurt and Loretta not be making the meeting tonight, Shalice?
Loretta emailed, she's having trouble with the link. She's not able to get into the meeting. I've resent her 3 different versions of the link, so hopefully she should be able to get in soon. Any word from Dean on his ability to get in? I've resent him his to his email address, and then I sent him a separate invite to his email address as well.
Okay.
Is there something specific with the link that is giving people difficulty now?
Maybe it's
I'm
going
not-
to spam. I don't know.
I'm not sure. This is my first time setting up the meeting myself. Ethan's been training me on it, but the only thing that I did was you can set, I think, 25 invites at one time. And Ethan mentioned sometimes when you do that, it does have issues sending the invites. So that's possibly what happened, but I've resent individual invites to Dean and Loretta, so they should be able to get it now. I think somebody just raised their hand.
We could always get Loretta to come over here and have to sit in the straight back chair back there, like 15 feet away from me. If we have to do that, we could.
Is Loretta fills in on the
Prime.
He
projects?
filled in on Durkee. Reg, I can't recall, is St. Peter's the one that you recused yourself from last time, or was that St. John's?
It was St. John's.
Do we have any other than my recusal from items 2 and 3? Do we have any other recusals tonight? Okay. So potentially the only question would be Loretta for items 2 and 3.
Which I don't think there's any action on tonight, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, Loretta's there.
Yeah.
There she is. You're muted.
It looks like Dean's here as well.
Oh, good.
I am so sorry. I know my phone, my iPad, and my computer. None of them would respond to the invite. So, Shalice, thank you. I finally got something to work.
You made it just in time. Okay, I think it's now 6 o'clock. We can move to our regular agenda. And we're live streaming and recording, so I will open the meeting for planning board meeting for Monday, September 28th, 2020. Can I get a roll call of the board?
Jim Abdallah,
Yes.
Marissa Gilbert,
Yes.
Derek Rosenbaum,
Here.
Rick Perry,
Here.
Reg Carter,
Here,
Loretta Rietsma,
Here,
Kurt Gurvich is absent.
Okay, thank you. We can move right to item number 1, which should be planning board item number 2020-13, 120 Court Street. It's currently a tabled item, and I believe will remain tabled on the agenda or until next month.
I'm sorry, is that one actually being withdrawn or is that being tabled?
I think it'll continue to be tabled until we have an official request.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then our next item, we've had a request for item number 4 to be heard at the beginning of the agenda, or is the next item. That would be planning item number 2020-16, 12 Allen Street, which is a minor subdivision returning from last month. And the board is open to hearing that next on the agenda. Do we have the applicant available?
Is he gone again?
Elise,
Here,
do you
he's
have-
muted.
do you want me to start presenting this project, or are we waiting?
I just wanted to make sure that the applicant was now online. Before
Yeah,
we-
looks like Dean is unmuted, so he may be able to speak with you, Jim. Dean, are you there? Oh, wow.
I see his name, but I don't see his. Well, Melena, I see that he's online. You might as well start
Okay.
outlining your summary and.
So this is item number 4 on the agenda, planning board item number 2020-16, 12 Allen Street minor subdivision. This is a request for a 2-lot minor subdivision of tax map parcel ID number 221.7-6-1.1, creating an approximately 0.23 acre new buildable lot and an approximately 0.30 lot to be retained. Zoned R1. The applicant is Warren and Kathy Bennett, and the plan preparer is Dean Lajway. This is a public hearing, a seeker, and final plat review. So this project was in front of the planning board last month for sketch plan review. It was deemed a minor subdivision, so now they're back for a final plat review. I'll go through these slides pretty quick, but just for the record, I'll say my spiel again. This is an overview of the site. The parcel is highlighted in yellow. This is over on Allen Street in South Plattsburgh. This is the zoning map showing the property is in the R1 residential district. This is the historic overlay map. You can see it's not a historic site or in a historic district. This is just a Google Earth image. The lot is, let me see my mouse here, is approximately right here. There are some accessory structures on site and an old driveway. So essentially this subdivision will separate this lot into 2 new buildable lots. This is a site photo. Again, this is showing the existing accessory structures. And this is the final plat, highlighted in yellow, and the red line is the proposed subdivision to create 2 new lots. There are no variances required, and the applicant or the surveyor has shown the setbacks that are required for the property. Like I said, there are some existing accessory structures, no primary buildings, and they're pre-existing. So no variances are required. They are showing the water and sewer laterals, the approximate location of those, the water and sewer mains. And there's a zoning table showing that the subdivision is compliant with all zoning requirements in this district. I didn't have any other comments for this one. Dean did a great job responding to all the sketch plan review comments. It's just a simple minor subdivision. I did reconfirm with the city chamberlain that there are no back taxes owed on this parcel. So he will be able to stamp the plans once you guys approve it tonight. We did review seeker part 1, determined this to be an unlisted action last month. So now the planning board will be able to complete seeker part 2 tonight. Other than that, I don't have anything else, and I'll hand it over to Dean if he has any other comments.
Is he really there?
Dean.
Hey, Dean, are you with us?
Doesn't show him as muted anymore, so he's here, but we can't hear him.
Dean, is your device itself muted?
Well, at this point, Melena, you've given a good summary of the project. It was here in front of us last month. I didn't have any specific comments in regards to the final presentation this month. Does any board member have any comments or questions?
No.
Okay. Without any further comments or questions, this project is subject to public hearing. So I think I'll open the public hearing and see if there's anybody from the public that has comments in regards to the application.
There are currently no hands raised.
Okay, we'll give it a minute. Still no one raising their hand, Shalice?
No one.
Okay. Okay, with that, then I'll move to close the public hearing and move to, we have a seeker short form, I believe, with this application. And we, as a board, have to run through the part 2.
Elise, do you want me to pull that up or do you have it?
I have it.
Okay.
Sorry, I just have to change one new attendee. Sorry. I have too many windows open. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So Jim, just so I'm sure, I mean, are we, we're just under the assumption that Dean wouldn't have anything else to add to this and we're just going to keep moving with it?
That is my assumption. Is that, and the board doesn't have any questions. We have a complete application in front of us.
Sorry, I did have this open. I had it on my drive and it's not, my drive became disconnected, so now I don't have it. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, are you guys seeing the correct document?
Yes, we are.
I do.
Thank goodness, otherwise you guys were about to do my homework. All right, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
I'd like to make a motion that we agree with a no answer to all of the above. And we would like to check the second box that we have. I need to have it to read it, Shalice. I don't have it in front of me unless it's on the screen. Let's try it again. I'd like to make a motion that we will check the box that we have determined based on the information analysis above and the no answers that and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
Okay, motion by Marissa. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Go ahead, Reg.
Second by Reg. Roll call?
Marissa Gilbert,
Yes.
Derek Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Rick Perry,
Yes.
Reg Carter,
Yes.
Jim Abdullah.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Then we have the final resolution for the application in front of us. Do I have a motion for approval of the subdivision?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the subdivision.
Okay, motion by Rick. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Jim.
Second by Reg. Any other further comments or questions?
To clarify, is that a motion to accept resolution 2020-16B?
That is correct.
Okay. Have a roll call.
Derek Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Rick Perry,
Yes.
Reg Carter,
Yes.
Jim Abdullah,
Yes.
Marissa Gilbert.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving to our agenda item number 2, which would be 2 and number 3. Planning board items 2019-10 and 2019-11. I will be recusing myself from this application as I have in past months, and handing over the chairmanship to Derek.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Just a quick review, and then I'll let Prime take over. But there's been a resubmittal with a few new changes to apartment unit numbers, commercial square footage, and the amount of parking spaces provided. So we're going to let Prime go through that. At this point, we still aren't able to take any action on these items because we're still waiting on zoning board. So at this point, we're just going to be hearing the information tonight, and the board just received this earlier today. So I'm not sure if everyone's had a chance to go through it, but we'll give Prime the opportunity to go through it now. And Melena, did you present something, or is it just Prime?
Yeah, maybe I'll just give a quick overview of the new information, and then we'll hand it over to Prime, like you said, to dive in a little bit more. So the description on our agenda for this application is actually not correct now, because like Derek said, we received new information yesterday from Prime. The new information is based on feedback from the last zoning board meeting in regards to parking demand. The zoning board felt that the increase in commercial space, I'm getting a message, necessitated more parking than what was being provided on site. So Prime has gone back and modified their plan. The original plan you guys saw back in March was 115 residential units and 13,400 square feet of commercial space, which includes the farmers market building. Last month, you saw a modified plan with a decrease in residential apartments down to 104, and an increase in commercial space up to 17,900. So the decrease in residential apartments was based on feedback to make the setbacks meet the zoning code, which is 15 feet from the road. And also not have as many first floor apartments that would be an issue with people walking by on the sidewalk, security, etc. So they modified their plan based on those comments, but now they've changed it again a third time. No major modifications. The units are still below the original 115. It's down to 109. Again, because those setbacks were increased to 15 feet. And the commercial space is back down to that original number, the 13,400, which includes the farmer's market. The parking demand is now actually 10 spaces lower than the original plan because of the decrease in residential units. They're still asking for a deviation from the zoning code at 267, and they're providing 293, which does include the 50 spaces for public use. They have provided a new site plan, which I have right here. And again, I'm sure Prime has this and they'll talk through it in more detail than I will, but just an overview. So last month we saw this plan, and the bottom northeast corner was residential, and this was the main entrance from the Riverwalk. So now they've changed that to make this whole wing residential again, and the main entrance will be at this corner of Durkee Street and Bridge Street. That's really the only major change from last month. Is this was all commercial last month. Now it's all residential again on this first floor. They did give us some new renderings and elevations, which I don't know how accurate they are now. This is a new one. So this is the south elevation. This is if you were walking on that pedestrian connection from Durkee Street down to the Riverwalk. So this would be open to parking on the first floor. This is what it would look like if you were walking on the ground here. And then this elevation is also new. So this is on the back side if you were standing on the Riverwalk looking back at the building. And you guys saw these new renderings last month showing the updated materials with the Stowe brick on all of the facades. And then the project also provided some updated floor plans to match the new site plan. So this shows you now that the only commercial space is along Durkee Street again, which was the original plan. So they're back to that.
Elena,
So-
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Going back to the previous slide,
The rendering or,
that one.
yep.
It appears that the Bridge Street structure is a covered sidewalk. Is that accurate now that it's back to all residential? Or
I
could
cannot
we add-
speak to that, but that's definitely a great question for Prime. Like I said, I don't know how accurate these renderings are anymore, because this one they gave us last month, of course, this is not going to be the main entrance into the residences anymore. It's going to be back on the corner. So I have a feeling all of this has changed again, but they can
Okay.
speak to that.
Okay.
I'm back if anyone can hear me.
Yep, we can.
Thank you.
So Charlie, do you want to share your screen? Do you want me to stop sharing this so you can go through the materials?
Yeah, let me just pull up, get out of this. I had to restart.
Can you guys, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yep, we can
Yep.
hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to start, Charlie, if you want.
Yeah, Turner, why don't you start? I'll just respond to the last thing I heard. And Turner, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There are no changes to the actual site plan itself or the design of the building. The only change, and Turner, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, is changing the residential units to 109. And we have a nice chart that, Turner can show you that talks about residential units when we started, commercial space when we started, parking when we started, and where are we today. So really, it's just a reduction of commercial space from 17,900 to 13,400. That is reducing the parking demand pursuant to the zoning code. And it also changes the parking calculation that we're requesting from this board. And in addition, we are providing more parking on the site. So Turner can go through all those numbers with you. But Turner, if you want to show them that chart that we submitted in my letter to the county that you prepared, that's really a great way to showcase it.
Yeah, So Melanie,
I do
think you
have
had
it. Yeah, I can pull that
yeah,
up.
you had everything. And
No, there.
okay. Yeah. Actually, if you don't mind, Melanie, if you go down one, I'll just go through what Charlie said really quickly. And to answer the question, there is still the covered walkway along Bridge Street, along the north face. And Charlie's correct. Essentially, all the changes that we made are inside the building. So the building elevations and the building renderings are not new or updated. They are all the same. The change is the line that, and I don't know if you can use your cursor here, Melena, that separates, yes, nice. The line that separates residential space from commercial space, that's the only change on the site plan. And then if you could jump down to the floor plan. Yeah, perfect. Awesome.
That was right.
Yeah. And so the difference here is that that north wing that is now residential units was previously about half commercial space wrapping around that side and is now all commercial on that north wing. So the main entrance will be on the Durkee Bridge Street corner. However, we're keeping that covered walkway and entrance along the north face of the building. That is maintaining. So from the exterior of the building, it all looks the same.
So Turner, the commercial space wrap around the east wing going, or I'm sorry, the north wing going down along Bridge Street, and now that's all residential?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yep. And then if you want to go back to the chart, Melena, I'll just go through that really quickly. So what this summarizes, the 3/4 date was the first plan that was referred to the county planning board. And that was obviously reviewed by you guys as well. So that was 115 residential units, 13,400 square feet of mixed use space. You can see the parking per code there was required 367, and per our PUD calculation was 276, and we were providing 286 on site. The 8/10 date was when we made the modification to bring the building farther into the site, allowing for the 15 feet of setback along Durkee Bridge and the pedestrian walkway, the riverfront walkway. And when we did that, we had the previous commercial space wrapping around the east side. So the numbers there were 104 residential units. The commercial space went up to 17,900. And then you can see the parking that was required per code and per our PUD calculation. And we were providing 290. These changes, we basically just swapped out the commercial space for residential units. So we're up to 109. We're back to the 13,400. You can see the parking the parking demand per code and per our PUD calculations. And the 3 additional spaces are all in the garage because the residential office used to be in the basement garage and can now be relocated up onto the first floor at the main entrance. So we gained 3 spaces in the garage. And that's really it. Like Charlie said, it was all inside the building. Everything else outside remained the same.
Turner, I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the walkway along Bridge Street, what is this going to be like if pedestrians are walking this close to the building? Are they going to be like looking in people's windows? Like how is that going to feel on that side of the building?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be much used. Now it's only going to access residential space. So there's going to be a stairwell if you look at the floor plan, I think it's a little more clear. There's going to be a stairwell on the north side. Yeah, that one. I don't know if you can zoom in or not, but you can see the gray space in the very northeast corner is a stairwell, I believe. So there's access to the, in and out of the residential space there. The main lobby will be up on the corner, but really it's only going to be residents that would be using that walkway to access residential space.
But doesn't that mean that residents are going to be staring at other residents through the window? I'm still confused. I thought we got rid of that looking through the window problem with it being commercial.
There were always 3 residential spaces, so those bottom 3 about were always the residential units on that first floor with that walkway. So there would be 2 units that would have a walkway walking by their exterior space.
But
I don't believe-
Turner, just to clarify, the elevation is still going downhill. So maybe we can get Steve to, before our next meeting, give a quick shot of what that looks like so you guys can understand it better.
Yes, please.
Yeah, they're just referring to the residential walkway that
Oh,
is
I get
going
it.
past.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't think, I think it's gonna be the same.
I mean, it's
Further downhill you go, the less view there's gonna be, but we'll have Steve do a quick cross section to show you there. That helps.
Yes.
So that covered walkway is going to follow grade of the road, or is it going to stay at the
No.
same?
It'll be at first floor elevation, so that will be the same elevation as those 2 units there would be. But I mean, it's essentially emergency exit from residential space is what it is.
The elevation is still there, the same
So,
issue
I just
with
saw-
not being able to see in is the same.
yeah, I just saw
Excuse
Steve
me.
there.
Turner, I can clarify that. I think what's going to happen now that we have the entry on the corner, after all, of Ridge and Durkee, we'll reclaim that covered walkway. It's going to look like the covered walkway as it currently does, but that'll become private space because, as Turner said, it's no longer necessary for
Right.
traffic for the residents, but we want to keep the aesthetic the same. So that'll become private balcony and amenity space off the administrative office area. But in that location, the units are so much higher than the sidewalk that no one's going to be able to see in, either to the balcony or certainly into the unit.
So you wouldn't be able to access that walkway from the exterior is what you're saying?
It's not, no, that's correct, Milan. It's
Okay.
like, or a entry access like it was before for the general building residents.
Okay.
That makes more sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we see the elevation from Bridge Street, I guess?
This one?
Back up at the corner of Bridge and Durkee.
I gotta zoom out again. Hold on.
Okay, so, all right, so where that covered walkway begins, you're saying that's going to be private?
Yeah, some of that is off the lobby, Derek. Some of that'll be off the administrative office space. And then,
So are we talking gated or what? When you say
Yeah.
private, it means that the public, the average person who doesn't want to get rained on as they smoke a cigarette outside your building can't
Right.
go there, right?
that's correct.
Okay, that's,
Okay.
If the administrative staff wants to have a cigarette, they certainly could go out there and not have their cigarette put out by the rain.
okay.
I
We
don't
are a
think anybody-
non-smoking community.
What's that?
So,
Depends
Yeah,
on what
actually-
you're smoking, I guess.
this is Loretta, and so that area of covered walkway
Mhm.
is not accessible to the public. It's only accessible if you go into the office, and then behind the office heading east, they will have a door onto that
Right.
walkway.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for pedestrians to be walking along that anyway, because it doesn't follow the line of the street.
Right.
You'd have to just walk straight, and I guess you could walk straight and get to the stairs and then go down, but it was never going to actually be a bona fide sidewalk that the public would be using.
Yeah.
What's the width of the sidewalk going to be now along Bridge Street?
The sloping sidewalk, Loretta?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, we have a 15-foot setback.
that's 15, okay, yep,
Well, that's to the property line, Loretta, and then there's, I think, an additional, 6-8 feet to the
Okay.
line.
and then my other question was on the, Melanie, could you just scroll up just a minute to the, yes, to 29? Is the east facing, yes, is the northeast facing facade going to continue to look like that?
Yes.
Okay,
We like having that extra entry because of what it does to activate the Riverwalk
mhm.
by
Yeah.
the entry from the parking. So that really works.
Yeah, well, it's also very attractive, so.
Yeah, from a
Okay, yeah, I
pedestrian.
was just wondering if that was going to stay the same, even though it's no longer the primary entrance.
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Charlie or Turner, I don't know if you mentioned it before, but I had watched the zoning meeting earlier or last week, I guess. So these changes that you guys brought about today, was that just to reduce the commercial space, to reduce the amount of parking spaces that were needed in response to ZBA, or were there other reasons for these changes?
Correct. So we were at the ZBA meeting. It was still quite prevalent that the ZBA is having trouble with the parking demand per the zoning code. And I, reading between the lines, the concern is that the delta is too high between the per code requirement and the alternative requirement. So what we were trying to do, and that was noted as, our increase in commercial space was not exactly taken well. So we scaled back the commercial space, which in turn reduced our per code parking requirement and also our PUD parking requirement demand. And we were also able to keep the extra spaces. So it was in direct response to ZBA comments. The ZBA did also feel it necessary that the special use permit applications be referred back to the county. So the meeting was on last Monday. We made these changes quickly last week so that the county could get the most recent plans on the submission deadline of Friday. So there are no other reasons for the change other than to work with the ZBA to try to lower the parking demand.
Okay. And because we've mentioned Riverwalk here, I know it's not part of the site, but I don't know if Matt's on or Milena, where are we at with the Riverwalk that may not or may occur? I don't know. Is that?
The
Yeah, the
Riverwalk is still
Riverwalk
going to
is,
happen.
the Riverwalk's still a priority. The final design of it, of course, is going to be dependent to one degree or another on the final form of the project, the prime project that is approved by the city boards. But the city does still fully intend to move forward and complete that project. The design phase will parallel Prime's, detailed design phase after board approval, and try to come up with a construction schedule that coordinates both projects so that hopefully they are both done in a more or less contemporaneous frame of time.
Also, I should add too that SRTG Phase 2 was approved by the council last Thursday. So shout out to Matt for getting that approved. It's very exciting.
Okay, that was what I had wondered was Riverwalk going to happen or not? But that sounds like it got approved and it'll be connected.
That was approved on Thursday. The current deadline for completion of construction of Phase 2 is end of September of 2021.
Okay.
I guess I have a question regarding, our approval or the approval in general of the special use permit. Don't you think that would be a relevant factor? Both the Riverwalk and traffic circulation within the area around this project?
Are you
I know
referring to pedestrian traffic, Rick, or vehicular traffic?
both vehicular and pedestrian traffic, you know, when we're looking at the special use permit for the planned unit development, it seems like those would be relevant factors when, you know, going through the approval process. Should more time have been put into that? And I know that it's been stated that these are projects that would be completed by others. And I think Prime's done an excellent job in, you know, everything that we've asked them to do, but they are only one of three considerations.
So Rick, for the site plan, you guys are only reviewing the site plan itself, but for the PUD subdivision, what you just said is absolutely correct. So for the PUD subdivision, you definitely need to take in consideration the Riverwalk, the SRTG, the Durkee Street improvements, and the applicant, the city, has addressed all of that in the PUD subdivision narrative that was provided to you, and it was a while ago, but I can dig that up and resend it. That way you can refresh in your memory all of the different narrative that was surrounding the whole PUD as a whole.
I think it would be important to do that and just to make certain also that we are current with plans, because at one point these plans had not been finalized, and I don't know to what degree they're finalized now. But as we're going through the approval process, it would be nice to see, one, if they're final, or two, what phase they're in.
I just may
You're
add to
referring
that.
to the plans for improvements to Durkee Street and the Riverwalk?
I think so, Matt, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
If I just may add to that as well, this whole project and multiple projects that the city is undergoing went through a generic environmental impact process. So one of the great things about a generic environmental impact statement and then that process is the SECRA record evaluates the cumulative impact of all these moving parts. And that's what the lead agency did when they made their finding statement. They were charged with making a finding statement for, you know, all of these different related parts globally. And then more narrowly, this board is charged with making SECRA finding statements talking about traffic and pedestrian safety, amongst others, for their specific applications. So, you know, what you can do and is appropriate is kind of take all that information that was previously provided at the beginning, that was part of the SECRA record related to things that had to do with the PUD boundaries, and put it in your finding statement for the PUD. That way you kind of close that loop that was just identified. You know, are things final? Have we examined things? Have we looked at this? Because it has been a lengthy process.
Yeah, your PUD finding statement does include reference to the Riverwalk and Durkee Street improvements. But yes, Rick, we don't have final plans for either of those. As Matt said, Saratoga Associates is kind of working alongside Prime, waiting for a final design before they will finalize their plans.
Okay, and just as a reminder, on Durkee Street, part of the Durkee Street parking plan is on the site plan of Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think it would be important that, you know, both proceed with at least the most current knowledge that we have of both the Riverwalk and the Durkee Street traffic plan.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Hey, Turner, I have a question for you. I know on your lumens plan, you identified specific lighting for the parking lot, the public parking lot. Is there any way to use the city's retro historic lights in the parking lot to match what's being installed at the Arnie Pavone lot and what's already downtown?
I think that's something I can certainly discuss with Prime.
Awesome.
We'd be willing to do that, provided it's not $1 million. It's,
No, they're not. I mean, the city's
Yeah.
installing them Arnie Pavones. I can't imagine they're that expensive.
you're doing the LED ones? The all
I
LED?
believe they're LED, right, Matt?
For the Pavone lot, I believe so, yes.
I prefer to match it. I think it'd look a lot nicer.
Yeah, it would just be seamless from, Margaret Street down through the Arts Park and then into, to the Riverwalk.
One other quick question, and why I got everybody on, and I want to get your thoughts because I want to either change it or not change it before the next meeting. But along Bridge Street, we got a huge mass of concrete. I think we're talking now close to 20 something feet. And we're big on landscaping and wanting to have some nice landscaping. And I Turner, I don't know about you, but my background's landscape architecture, so I'm kind of into it. But maybe if we could look at, I know everybody wanted a wider walk there, but 20 feet is wide, and I think we could do something that would soften things up a little bit and look really nice. And we'd be certainly willing to spend the money on the landscaping because I think it'd make the building look. Just didn't know the board's thoughts on that.
Well, we're not knowing what you're exactly proposing. Trees, evergreens?
Can you bring up the elevation from the,
What are
No,
we
it'd be more
proposing?
plantings, it'd be more a planting where there's some trees along there, but it would be more plantings along the building, or may even possibly be more plantings between the walks and the buildings. But there's a massive sidewalk there, a lot larger than it needs to be. And I just, maybe there's a reason why, from a planning standpoint, it would be on our property, because our property, we're now 15 foot off of the property line. But I just think it would, normally it'd be a mix of really cool looking flowering perennials, most likely, because anything else is going to get really beat up with the snow removal and salt and everything else. So that's typically what we would do.
I'd be all for that. I mean, I think,
I don't see any reason you couldn't have a raised bed along there that's not sidewalk, because we pushed you off the property line. That doesn't mean it has to be all sidewalk paved between the edge of your building and the edge of your property line. It can be raised beds, but like the raised beds that are across the street that finally just got rehabilitated recently, they need to be taken care of. So we need you to promise you're really going to spend some money and pay attention to your own landscaping.
Well,
and perennials.
I wasn't even thinking a raised bed. I was thinking just leave some area out of the sidewalk and then just simply put perennials in, like, call it a 3-foot planter or something like that. That would be against the building, it'd be just inside the sidewalk, not necessarily a raised bed.
I don't think anybody has any problem with that.
Okay.
no, I think that.
My only question would be, how practical would it be, being that it's on the north side of the building, and you'd have to plan something that required very low sunlight.
Yeah.
Gonna
There's
be in
plenty
the
of stuff
shade.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's something we'll certainly look at, and there's definitely a bunch of plants out there that would do well in that scenario, and something that we would look at. I normally will go I still get involved with selecting plants because I like it, but I would normally look at, actually go to the nursery, see what plants look the best, which would be most suitable for the area. We could put some examples on a site plan, but Turner, maybe you and I can work on that. It just to make a quick modification.
Yeah, I think it would definitely soften the side of the building from a human scale. I mean, especially since pedestrians aren't able to access this side of the building. I think having something at the pedestrian level would be awesome.
Not that I throw another curveball at this point in time, but I figure we might,
Dean, one thought is if you just cut out on the sidewalks along, some areas where you'd be planting in the ground, but some sort of a modified green wall along the lower part of it, honeysuckle or whatever. I know that trumpet vines do really well here. I mean, there are a bunch of vines that actually, if you took care of them, you wouldn't be obstructing the views. They wouldn't be overgrowing the building. I'm just throwing that out there because I also love getting my hands in the dirt. And
I think of this because I had a project that we did in Saratoga, the Pavilion Grand Hotel, if you want to look it up. And at one point in time, it was sidewalk all the way out. And the last minute, we kind of added like a 3-foot planter that, we ended up putting some birch trees and some flowering roses and some, different types of perennials that really gave a whole different look in the summer. And I think
absolutely,
I see the same thing happening here when I see this walk. That's all.
Yeah, I think a green wall would be great. I love those concepts. So we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Thank you.
Dean, as long as you're on the phone here, I have a question regarding the open parking lot. We have an allocation of 50 parking spaces for general public use. And we do have an allocation of parking spaces for the commercial use, the former farmers market building. I'm not sure what that number is. If somebody could refresh my memory, that would be great. But my point being, we heard from an individual a couple weeks ago, and they said it seemed like it would be acceptable to someone that opposed the project if that were made into or retained by the city as part of public parking. And being in the downtown district, you obviously would, be part of that public that would have utilization of that space. One, has that option been offered to you? And two, after hearing the public comment, did it give you probable reason to think about, that being retained by the city and let that be public parking? Because it doesn't seem like the remaining parking spaces serve a very large benefit to the residential and main commercial structure.
I think one of the issues is it has been brought up, and I think if the city was willing to do all of the infrastructure work on that lot, it's something we may consider. But if we're going to be spending all the money, and it's a significant amount of money improving that lot, we'd like to have the opportunity to try and get some of it back vis-a-vis parking, reasonable parking fees for it. So it would throw a whole nother level of complication into a process that's already overcomplicated. Really,
Well,
honestly, we want to just put it to rest and get a vote one way or the other. But I understand what you're saying, but it every time we make one change here, it's a chain reaction of 10 other changes that we've had to deal with. And I understand what you're saying, but it's not that easy, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, well, and what you're saying is that it would depend on the city accepting those terms and conditions that they would make the infrastructure improvements. I know that neither Matt or Milena would be able to speak on behalf of the legislative body, but if that question were posed to them, is it
may or may not? There's a lot of other, it's a chain reaction of other things we'd have to look at. And frankly, now we've been at this, no disrespect to anybody, for so long. We've got to a point where we really need to stop and say, we need to vote and then either build the project or move on. And if it's something that had come up a year ago and we could start discussing it, but we've had, we really need to wrap at some point. So, what's that? Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, just another point to that, because we also heard that from the Zoning Board of Appeals chairman. That I believe there are 86 parking spaces on that surface lot. So 50 of those would be dedicated to the public, and hopefully my math is right, but 36 of those then are used for not just the commercial space of the farmers market building, but the commercial space in our building as well. So we would not be able to be anywhere near zoning compliance for parking demand without access and ownership of those 36 spaces. Not to mention, once you take that land away from this lot, you would enter into, I believe, and I have not done the analysis on this, and maybe Turner could speak, but a lot of zoning non-compliance issues related to lot coverage and so forth, because we wouldn't have that extra acreage to the south. So it really, you know, you'd be taking something, and again, I haven't done this analysis, but I believe you'd be taking something, making a change that then makes it more non-conforming with the zoning code, which is not the goal here.
And that's been a problem throughout the whole process. Every time we make a change, thinking that we're doing something good and trying to satisfy as many folks as we can. I know we're never gonna satisfy everybody. There's 5 other reactions to that action. And at some point in time, you just got to stop and say, you know, it is what.
Well, you know, and quite honestly, I thought it was a legitimate point and a potential compromise that, you know, your opposition had presented. So my thought was, you know, it really does deserve a little bit of consideration in conversation so that, you know, you could evaluate the merits of it. You know, the fact that you are paying for the infrastructure improvements for that entire site in itself is a large monetary expenditure. I get that. Where it became, you know, quite close is that we have to assess a number of parking spaces for the farmers market property. If that 50 then becomes, I don't know, what are you allocating? 30 parking spaces?
Rick,
For the
hey, look, Rick, this is Turner. So
Yes.
if you think about it, just about that lot there, the farmer's market, and it depends how you do it now per PUD or per code, but it's relatively consistent. It's somewhere between 12 or 14 spaces required for that farmer's market building. So,
Okay.
you know, you look at what's left in the lot after you subtract out the 50, you know, there is an excess there beyond what would be required by the farmer's market building plus the 50 for the city. But as
And
Charlie
correct me if
said,
I'm-
that's the number I was looking for.
okay.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah,
mentioned
so
I
so
did not do
the
math.
amount being driven by that farmer's market portion is, you know, relatively small portion. The other thing, the other comment I would make, and to Charlie's point, we have not analyzed that, but he is absolutely correct. It becomes a very different project if that's not part of the property. And then I guess the only other comment I would make is that is an open lot as a concession made by Prime based upon public and board comment. The original proposal brought by Prime was 2 buildings. We had a whole building there, and you know the comment was we want parking, and so we made, you know, we returned that to an open lot as a concession. But yeah, those are just my thoughts.
Well, it
Rick,
was a recommendation that, you know, that really did warrant discussion. And I appreciate your being open and I believe honest with us that you did give it consideration and the factors are what they are.
Rick, if I could add a comment for what it's worth, to the extent you think of the farmer's market and the commercial space as areas accessed by the public. In that sense, you can think of it as additional parking available for public use in that sense. I think that's a key point to keep in mind for what that's worth.
I don't disagree.
Thanks.
You're right, Steve. Thanks.
Okay. Something that I just thought of, and because we've been going through all this and we're kind of hung up because zoning is at where it's at, but just to clarify, as far as what zoning, they have to either approve or deny 2 special use permits.
That's
And
right.
one is for the new PUD boundary, correct?
Yep.
And another is just for first floor apartments?
First floor apartments in a multi-story structure within a PUD.
So, okay. So but really the special use permit is just for first floor apartments, has nothing to do with parking or any of that other stuff?
As part of the special use permit review process, one of the 5 criteria that the zoning board is permitted to use when evaluating that is the parking that is supplied. But again, we're not seeking a special use permit for anything specifically related to parking.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to have that clarified, I guess, so we understood where things are what's being analyzed, and then, where we're at as far as the requests that we've made have been, I think, readily made by Prime for us. Okay. Thank you, Matt. Does anyone have any other questions for Prime or any other discussions?
I didn't throw in my 2 cents on the concrete sidewalk on Bridge Street, but I agree with Dean. 15 feet of sidewalk in addition to the adjacent parking space is a lot of paved surface. I think landscaping would be a really nice addition to that area.
Great. Dean and I will take a look at it.
Okay. Well, if there's no further questions, then I guess I think we're all set on this item for tonight.
I would just like to thank the board, very helpful comments. And I think the length of this meeting alone is a good indication that we are headed in the right direction. So thank you everyone for your thoughtful comments. We will digest them and we'll see you soon.
I will add my thanks as well. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll bring Jim back in and start with item 5. I guess, Melina, if you want to start. Or
Is Jim
Jim?
back?
Okay, there he is.
Sorry, I was on mute. I guess we're all set to move right to item 5. Okay.
Kurt has joined us as well.
Okay. Item number 5 will be planning board application number 2020-17, 72 Brinkerhoff Street. This is a historic site review. Ask Melina to provide us a outline and summary.
Okay, so this is a request to construct a single-family colonial revival style residence in the Brinkerhoff Street Historic District. It's zoned RH, tax map parcel ID number 207.19-2-43. The applicant is Gary and Kathy Duesberg, plan preparer Gary and Kathy Duesberg. So this is a public hearing, a secret determination, and historic site review. So this is an interesting project in front of the board this month. This is a new construction in the historic district, which doesn't happen very often. We did provide a few documents as referenced as part of your review, one being regulating new construction in historic districts from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So that document provides some great guidance regarding review procedures and considerations for new construction. It basically states that new construction does not have to replicate existing architecture or the old architecture that was previously on the site. but should be compatible in regards to the placement on the site, the height, the massing, and other materials and architectural characteristics. We can just discuss that further in a minute, but I just wanted to put that out there that hopefully you guys got a chance to look at that document so that we can provide some good feedback to the applicant tonight. So the first slide on the screen now, this is just an overview of the site. It's highlighted in yellow. This is the corner of North Catherine Street and Brinkerhoff Street. The next slide is the zoning district, showing it's in the RH district, which is residential historic. This is the historic district overlay, showing the property is within the Brinkerhoff Street Historic District. And I have the CRIS form here. It's a really cool photo of the old building that was there that actually burned down, which is why we have this application in front of us tonight. I believe the building was built in 1890. It's kind of hard to read. And it was a great example of Queen Anne architecture. I did reach out to SHPO. I sent them all of the application materials for them to review and give us some feedback, just because this is kind of a unique application. SHPO did correspond with us and sent us a letter back basically saying that based on the application materials submitted, that the scale and design of the proposed new home is appropriate to the surrounding historic district. Here's a photo of the old residence, actually when it was on fire, super sad. And this is an image of the site now, the vacant property here on the corner. I included a couple of photos in the slideshow of adjacent residences, just so you could get an idea and a feel for the different architecture in that historic district. This is directly adjacent to 72 Brinkerhoff. I believe this is 70 Brinkerhoff. It's kind of a smaller brick colonial home. And this is across the street. This is the residence that Marissa was talking about earlier that I guess was in front of you guys, or in front of the planning board at some point, which was actually new construction as well. And then this is further east down Brinkerhoff Street. I just included this one because I thought this building was pretty neat. And this is a concept rendering of what the applicant is proposing for the site. So it's a colonial house. It does still have the big wraparound porches in the front, very symmetrical, garage in the back, 2 stories, big windows. And this is the floor plan for the proposed site. And they also provided a simple site plan just showing that the proposed home would meet the setbacks and no variances would be required. And they also provided a materials list. This was provided a little bit late, but hopefully you guys had a chance to review it. So although the old home was a great example of Queen Anne architecture, and the one they're proposing is colonial, I mean, it's simplistic in nature. It doesn't replicate what was there before. I think it is complementary to the neighborhood. I don't really have any other comments. I'd like to maybe hand it over to the applicant to discuss their proposal with you guys, and you can provide some feedback. I don't know if Kathy or Gary are on the call.
They're here. They're moving over right now.
Okay. Also, we did review the seeker part 1 that was submitted with the application and determined this to be an unlisted action. So the board will be able to complete seeker part 2 tonight if you decide.
Yeah. Good evening. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Oh, great. Good evening. You know, we are residents of Plattsburgh forever, and we love that a lot, and that's why we decided to do that. Tonight, we're coming to you from our loft apartment here on 70 Clinton Street, where we have Kathy's Music Factory and our loft apartment. And as we come back more and more from Florida, where it's going a little crazy, we are so excited about being able to build this project here that I think is an important corner in Plattsburgh. It brings you in from the north way, it brings you here. And we want to make this something where you come down North Catherine and then you turn onto Brinkerhoff, and we'll be doing, I think, a lot of great landscaping that was more colonial revival, and we'll have an old-fashioned look to that corner. I think that will complement what the historic district is all about. So we hope you approve us tonight. No.
Okay, thank you. I guess, does anybody on the board have comments, questions for the applicant?
I would just like to make corrections for the record, like for the historic site review, that it was a Queen Anne house that is being replaced, not a colonial revival house that is being replaced. So anywhere in the application where it talks about the original house being colonial revival, it needs to be replaced with Queen Anne. Doesn't mean that your house needs to be Queen Anne. This is nice. A couple of comments I had in the pre-meeting where you mentioned it's going to be siding, vinyl siding, and that's fine because it's a brand new building. I just asked that the siding can sometimes be kind of glossy or matte, and I think it needs to be matte so that when you drive by, it isn't quite so apparent it's siding by its glossiness. That would be one request. The second is on the house plan. It seems as most colonial revival tend to have some kind of window in that triangular section of the attic. And you have an air vent, which you need, but I'm wondering if there's any way, modification to the plan, that could actually have some kind of a window up there. Fake window, doesn't even have to be, really a window you could look out of. But if you just look quickly at the building next door, the picture Melina had taken, I think they had there's usually some kind of attic window. See, that's a really nice one. Okay, next door. But virtually any building is just not flat up there in that section.
Thank you so much. I agree with that. In the front, there is no, that is a total, no ceiling in that area. That's all going to be, there's no floor.
It's open.
They'll revive. We'll go up the stair. That'll be 16 feet. So if we had a window up there, I think that'd be a great idea.
This is a pre-bought plan, right? They can do that for you, right?
Oh, it'd be easily. There's nothing up there. And so they would do that as architecturally, that would be really great. I like that idea. We're trying to fit the entire building to Mrs. Hill's building that was on the right. Is very struck. I grew up in Plattsburgh. I live with this corner. I know the Engleharts. I graduated in '64 from Plattsburgh State. And we almost here in where we live now on Clinton Street, and a building's turned 100 years old, and I think we really take care of it well. And I feel like what we want to do here is to recreate something that will be appropriate for that corner. And if that's an architectural element, we'll do it, I think.
Yeah, that would be my only comment on this particular design, that the blank look at the top looks a little funny.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, some people wanted us to do a portico over to the right, but we can't really do it because once it burned, has no setback over there. And so I think that's a very nice idea.
I think we're getting harassed here. We're getting some.
We are.
Yeah, I think we've been hacked
before, and I'm trying to figure out from Ethan if there's a way to disable that right now.
Well, I was just going to say that I think you guys have done a great job as far as putting effort into making this fit. I like the way it looks. I think it'll be a nice addition right there, and if someone put the effort in to make it fit.
the other thing we had discussed in the pre-meeting, there is, I think it's still back there. I don't think it burned. There's a kind of a strange fence made out of doors.
Oh,
Along,
we-
Doors are gone.
we've
doors are
taken-
gone. Thank you.
And we're trying to repair it, but four months
Okay.
4 months later, our guy hasn't delivered. He said, cut all the boards and it's gonna happen and, oh, no, we want that gone so fast. We're trying. But you know, during this pandemic, you hire somebody and they give you a lot of promises and sometimes they can't deliver the people. So, and even mowing and so on becomes complicated. So we're working on that. That place.
Can I suggest?
Colonial Revival Gardens, it'll have beautiful landscaping. We're so invested. If you come down Clinton Street and just look at our building here at 70 Clinton Street with Kathy's Music Factory, you'll see what we do.
Okay, thank you. So I think, Kurt, I think you're gonna have the same suggestion that we probably should pause the meeting for a few minutes, maybe all log out and then come back in to see if we can resolve some of the Zoom.
Yes.
I think Ethan was going to try to log into on the back end and disable the chat.
Okay. Do
All right, so we're gonna log out.
I think it's probably take a break. We'll log out and log back in and
Okay.
Okay.
resume in a few minutes. Okay, thank you.
That's her. Yeah, that's her. Yes, that's a your girl.
Oh,
She was-
Felice, maybe.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, I think it is, yeah.
We just blew them away.
Gary and Kathy, we might need you to log out and log back in. I'm just
Okay,
waiting. I'm waiting
All
for
right.
Ethan to hop in and see if we can figure this out.
Okay. I think I just logged out. I'm not sure. Leave.
Yeah, like,
Well, I couldn't do it. Okay.
I don't have any issue.
Okay, don't want us to leave. Okay.
Okay, we'll just give it a few more minutes for people to.
There.
Okay.
Are we out?
Mhm. Okay.
You didn't leave, right?
I was gonna, but I didn't leave the webinar. Do we need to leave? I didn't hit leave.
I don't think so at the moment.
Do you want me to leave webinar?
I don't think so, Gary and Kathy. I think
Okay.
the board stepped away, I think,
Okay.
to have helped resolve some of our issues.
Okay.
Melena, I'm not seeing anything like I
No,
was
it looks like the chat was disabled.
Okay.
Okay, so we're just waiting on Rick and Kurt to return. So let's give it a few more minutes. Okay, I think everybody is returned now, and I think we've resolved some of our issues with Zoom.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I'm on the phone with Ethan still. We think we might have figured it out. I'm not positive. We're gonna give it a minute. If we still see any messages popping up, we might have to end the entire Zoom. It's still streaming on YouTube. We'll have to probably disconnect completely and redo that. I was trying to see how to do that without disabling the YouTube stream.
So Shalice, are you still seeing that in the background and we may not be seeing that? I don't see that on my screen anymore.
We don't have it anymore. I've been disabling or removing any attendees that join with clearly fake names that are not attendees. It's hard to tell. Some of the names look like they could potentially be a resident. So
Okay.
there's some that are obviously spam names, but I've been removing them as they pop in, but it's so fast that I can't keep up with it when there's multiple.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think we can try to proceed. I haven't seen anybody join in the past minute.
Probably was fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Board have any other comments or questions at the moment?
Oh, we did bring up the, that it was not a legal fraternity house. We wanted to get that on the record, that it never was a
Yeah.
recognized fraternity house. It may have been occupied that way illegally, but it was not a legal use. It was a single family home, the end.
That's good.
Okay?
Okay. That is a good indication.
Good observation.
Yes. I guess, Milena, you had offered some publications in regards to evaluating new proposals within the historic district.
Yep.
I was wondering if you could run through, they give a pretty good outline of the process on, I think it's page 6 of the National Trust for Historic Preservation.
I can actually pull that up if you'd like.
That'd be perfect.
And I don't see the SHPO letter here. You said there was a SHPO letter, but I can't find it. So.
I can pull that up too. I believe they use an acronym that's FRESH, I think. We can find that page. You said page 6, Jim?
Yep. That's by page numbering, so it might be like page 8.
Right.
Some of the,
Tell me when you see the page you want.
yeah, it's actually labeled page 6 down in the bottom left corner.
Okay. We're almost there.
There you go.
Okay.
So I was looking at this and I think it gives a pretty good outline of the, the review process for the planning staff, the applicant, and the board. I guess it's identifying where the board feels we are today with the application and what in addition we need or not to complete this review process.
Yeah, I was struggling with this review a little bit too. I had to speak with Joe. Just, it's not typical for me to review residential site plans. So I was like, what do we need to get from the applicant to make this a complete application? Because it's not a site plan. It's simply historic site review. So you're just looking at whether or not this building will fit within the district. You're not looking at water and sewer lines and driveway and setbacks. Like you're not doing that complete site review. So it was really hard for me to wrap my head around this. But you're right. I think this section of the document kind of does give a great outline of what to look for, which would be the massing, the height, the site placement, any architectural details like Marissa brought up, maybe the window in the attic space. and just general architecture design. And, you know, this is colonial, it does fit in with the historic district. I believe the Brinkerhoff Street Historic District is defined by, I wrote it down, mid-19th century, late Victorian, late 19th and 20th century revivals. So that's like the overview description of this historic district. And I think what they're proposing is within, you know, those descriptions.
And I think, you know, definitely the applicant has provided a good outline of what they intend to provide. I think leading into the final plans, when I look at, you know, some of the discussion of review of the submittal and preparation of the final submittal, you know, some of the things that is, you know, we would seem to go back on and going back just to review of some of the other historic applications come in front of us, you know, everything from shingle style and color to trim styles and colors. You know, I think there's been comment generally about vinyl siding, but what style of vinyl siding? I mean, there's thousands of styles that can be selected. You know, some of that will be outlined in the plan details. Some of that could be outlined in a submittal board. You know, that's really, I guess, the next step from what I see in this outline, and what we would normally see in a final submittal for historic review.
So basically you want to see more details in regards to the materials that are proposed to be used and like actual examples of those materials.
I think that's what the outline is, you know, that's what they're outlining in this document. And once again, that goes consistent with what we would normally ask for, you know, just a renovation of a historic structure. Obviously, the materials may be a little different, and, you know, for instance, the tabled application that's at the front of our agenda, they're proposing vinyl siding on a historic building. The board has taken a stance that, you know, a replacement of a material like that may not be appropriate, but on a new structure, the board is clearly verbalized that, you know, a new structure that may be appropriate with the appropriate selection of the correct product, you know, vinyl product. That's to be seen in the final details, you know, of what that might be.
I've just got a quick question, since I'm a relatively new member on the board and I realize I'm not voting on this, but how often does the planning board get involved in the construction of new homes? And what's the level of involvement that we are
that we don't review? We don't review residential construction. We're only reviewing this at historic site review level.
So have there been any other?
The one across the street, Loretta. The stone building across the street is a fresh construction item within the last 15 years. That's about the first one that I can recall that's been built in the historic district, because in general, historic buildings don't, well, sometimes they do get torn down, as we've seen, okay, without our permission sometimes. But it doesn't happen very often. I mean, I think the first one I can even recall is the one across the street. And the only reason I recall it is because, like I said, it needed zoning variances as well.
And was the planning board involved in the, you know, determining materials? And I'm just curious.
They were. I wasn't on the planning board at that time, but the law would have required them to be involved.
Okay, good. Because yeah, it seems like we can use what, you know, what they were using as guidance.
Yeah.
I think, well, once again, we have not seen a full new construction, but we surely have seen applications where we have, you know, enforced right down to the level of the type of column wrap or style that's going to go on a front porch. I think we should be consistent with that. We should have at least some more supporting detail in what we're approving.
Jim, is that only on historic buildings or any residential buildings within the historic district?
I think they're all historic site review. I think they're all considered the same historic site review. It's just what, you know, the difference in what's being proposed is this is brand new construction within the district.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, I understand when we say replace like materials, you know, with as similar as possible. But that wouldn't actually have much, that wouldn't matter, you know, for new construction, because you're building brand new there, you're not replacing anything. Or am I, that's what I'm trying to clarify, is how are we supposed to look at this?
I think in this case, you're supposed to compare it to the overall elements within the district and make an appropriate evaluation of how what's being proposed as new fits within those character elements of the district. You know?
I think tonight this is a two-step process. These people have not even bought these plans yet. They're saying, do you in concept like this building as it's presented? And again, as we've discussed, extra window, so that we can go ahead and buy the plant. Okay, I think they need to know they're going to step forward with this particular plan. And then by next month, they need to come back, hopefully, with their choices, number 1, number 2, number 3, for what exactly the windows are going to be made of, what exactly the siding is going to be made of, et cetera, so that we can do those kind of look-sees and see if we're happy to keep it, to see whether it blends appropriately with the neighborhood and its neighbors, not just a blanket approval. Yeah, go ahead. You want to put vinyl siding on it? Go ahead. It needs to be a little bit more than that, but these people need to move forward too. So that's what I'm saying. I think it needs to be a two-step approval.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, overall, what we've seen as far as the house, the layout, the site layout, that all seems to fit. So
yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased. We're happy. We're happy it's not going to be just a naked lot and sit there forever waiting to sell. I'm happy it's going to be a single family home. And I think, you know, there's so many, as you said, Jim, there's so many choices out there of what you can pick from, that they can just pick the things that are the most affordable and blendable at the same time.
Yeah, I think following up on that is where it does say, if we're going to use this as our guidance, that it should be clad in visually and physically similar material. If we're going to use that as guidance, then we're not saying you have to have a slate roof and you have to have wood clapboard. And if we're using this as guidance, what we're looking at is similar material, which to me means I would fully expect that it will be different material, because certainly the material that's available now is much more affordable and much more long lasting.
So from an administrative side, what we can do is we can modify the resolution to kind of be a sketch resolution with a requirement that the project come back with additional detail, so that you guys can still vote tonight, but it's not going to be a secret determination. It's not going to be a public hearing tonight. It'll just basically be a sketch review.
I mean, that makes the most sense. And then they can know they can proceed, they can spend the money, they can start picking out the paint, whatever, for inside, get excited about building a house. And we can just keep moving along. And if they need an extra, you know, they need 60 days to come back with the choices, then they need 60 days to come back, whatever.
Melina, just a point of order. I believe because a public notice was published for a public hearing tonight, I think we still have to open one tonight.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing from the board is and I agree. I think that the concept plan provided looks great. I think it'd be a nice addition to that corner and fit within the style of the district. Our resolution tonight would essentially authorize or approve the concept so that the applicant can move to final plan and final details presentation to the board next month if timing allows. I would recommend that submittal will include, if it final plans and details along with, some of the materials that you've selected, colors, style, anything that would help support, the final plan development.
So we have a modified resolution that's neither 17B or 17A. So it'd be kind of, open the public hearing. We don't want to have a
Public hearing
resolution yet.
first.
Is there anybody out there?
We have,
We're
hand-
still here. We're still here.
Yeah, no, aside from you, anybody else?
Are you sure?
we
you
do
wanna
have
take-
2 hands up, but I believe they are spammers, but I don't know how to tell without inviting them to speak.
What are their, read their names out loud.
Well,
Maria
this is
Jose.
Gary and Kathy just. We are the people
Magdalena
trying to.
Delgado. Oh wait, Anthony's gone. Now we only have Maria Jose now.
So we do, so just to be clear, we do have an open public hearing. So we've opened the public hearing. Shalice, you have one person raising their hand.
At the moment we have one. The Anthony person has rejoined. He does not have his hand raised, but we do have one person with a hand up.
You're hoping there aren't bad words involved.
We have 2 hands up.
I don't know, does Ethan have the ability to confirm in the background if they have comments for the public hearing?
Oh,
I'm the moderator now. It's my first meeting taking over, so trial by fire here.
Without immediately opening.
I believe that Ethan went on the very back end on the Zoom website and disabled the chat during the meeting for us. I think the only way to check this is probably to chat directly with these 2 people, but I don't know how to do that without reopening the chat.
And our problem is anybody can speak at this public meeting.
Yes.
No matter what they're saying, I mean, you can chop them off if it's profanity, but
Okay, you can mute them out, Shalice.
So minus having ability to any kind of screening, I guess, open up to whoever is raising their hand. And if it becomes inappropriate, then we'll cut them off.
All right, I am going to unmute Maria Jose.
Okay.
Hello.
hey,
I have a question about will there be a pool?
no,
Will they have like any sort of park?
no,
Ah, fuck me.
yep, chopped up. Chopped
Okay.
up.
Okay, so I disabled that one.
Okay,
We have no other hands.
and no other hands. Okay, if there's no other hands being raised, then I'll move to close the public hearing. And then.
without us or from Gary and Kathy, the developer.
Yeah,
Without,
you'll have some opportunity to, did you have anything else addition to offer?
well, no, I mean, we appreciate the observations that were made about vinyl siding. I mean, I put that in there. It could be, wood siding if that's going to be somebody. We just don't want to paint it forever. We're 78 and 75 years old. We're trying to do our best. And, but, sometimes Plattsburgh knows a way of not doing something that makes sense, And I know this board works its best to deal. I saw what you're doing with crime and with us, but we don't have a lot of time to spend a lot of time. I'm not going to spend money if I'm not sure if the siding is too flamboyant or something. I spent a lot of time trying to find a a thing that would fit there. I grew up in Plattsburgh, and I'm very familiar with Dr. Englehart's place that burned. And it's something special to us, and we don't even need to do it. We live in a beautiful place on Clinton Street, but we want to kind of help the city. But if we're going to have to get into something, we can't. I can't go ahead. I'm not getting financing. I'm paying for the whole 2, 3, 4,000, whatever it is, out of my own pocket. But I'm not going to wait too long. Okay.
Okay, I think I fully understand that. And I believe with a little more detail, you know, one more meeting, I believe the board can come to an agreement.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for the application before we move into the sketch? I guess the modified sketch resolution.
Did we close the public hearing?
I believe I had. closed the
Okay.
public- Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Was there any other things the board wanted to offer?
No.
No. Okay. I would think seeker is when we have the final application and it's complete.
Yep.
So at this point, we'll hold on seeker. And then we have a modified sketch resolution or a concept approval for what was presented tonight. The applicant can move forward with the, you know, final details and plans. Do I have a motion for?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the sketch review of the proposed plan for 72 Brinkerhoff, the lovely colonial house plan with stacked wraparound porches as shown to us, 1,872 heated square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2 floors, and a 2-car garage. And we are approving it with some kind of window in the what appears to be attic space, so that they can go ahead and buy the plans. That would be my motion.
Okay. Do I have a
Second.
Second by Derek.
Modified to the resolution 2020-17A.
Thank you. If there's no further comments, then roll call.
Derek Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Rick Perry,
Yes.
Reg Carter,
Yes.
Jim Abdullah,
Yes.
Marissa Gilbert.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Gary and Kathy.
Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Moving on to our last agenda item, agenda item number 6, application number 20-20, 114 Cornelia Street, historic site review. Milena, if you can.
I sure can. Last but not least, 114 Cornelia Street. This is a request to replace a concrete staircase on the front facade of the St. Peter's Church Rectory. It is zoned R2, tax map parcel ID number 207.15-6-34. Applicant is St. Peter's Church. The plan preparer is Ray Burns from JFP. This is a public hearing, a secret determination, and historic site review. Alrighty, so here's an overview of the site on the corner of North Catherine, Cornelia, and Elm Street. A quite large lot for the church and associated parking and a large park space in the rear. Here's the zoning map showing the property is in the R2 district. The historic overlay showing the property is a registered historic site. And I have the CRIS form here. You guys might remember from the last time the rectory was in front of you for some interior modifications that required some alterations to the windows on the exterior facade, that the description of the rectory was actually wrong on the CRIS form. I know that Ray from JFP did reach out to Weston Davey, who's our contact at SHPO, to update that. It hasn't been done yet, but they are aware that this is the wrong description of the building. I just wanted to point that out. Speaking of SHPO, we did coordinate with them. because last time the board had requested that the applicant do that and they didn't want to lose another month. So we did that up front. SHPO did get back to us with a letter dated September 14th, saying that the information provided appears that the proposed replacement is appropriate to the historic building and meets the standards for preservation. So the applicant provided a few images of the existing staircase. As you can see, it's pretty deteriorated. I don't believe that they're actually allowing people to come in this way anymore. It's in pretty bad shape. They are proposing to replace the staircase and the sidewalls exactly as they appear here, but obviously in better condition. I have a couple more photos. You can see the cracks in the brick of the sidewall here. And they also provided a few different plan views, shape, size, materials, everything will be exactly the same as what exists there now. I have a couple of different site views. You can see they provided side views showing, the different materials. The same angles will be used for that sidewall. The brick on the top, concrete. Just more materials and dimensions. They also will be replacing the railings. They will be the black iron, which exists there now, so they'll be an exact replica as well. They also provided some images of the material. This will be the brick. It's the same red that exists now. And the St. Mark's stone with a brushed finish to match what exists there now. So this is an exact replica replacement. I didn't have any review comments, but I'll hand it over to Ray if he wants to provide additional detail to you guys.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it's an exact replica. That's what we're attempting to achieve here.
Thank you, Ray. We really appreciate it when you make it easy for us. Okay.
Okay, does anybody else on the board have any comments, questions?
Just one observation, Jim. Being the front entrance, it's obvious it's a required means of egress. Something like this probably shouldn't be delayed at all.
No argument from me.
Okay, well, if there's no other comments or questions, we do have a public hearing associated with this project. Do I dare attempt to open the public hearing?
We have 3 attendees, nobody with hands up as of right now.
Okay, so no one with hands up at the moment.
Now we have a hand up. Jessica Willis.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Is Jessica Willis, are you, do you have comments in regards to this application?
I'm a troll.
Okay, she's on mute. Okay. Anyone else?
No other hands right now.
Okay, if there's no one else raising their hand, then I'll move to close the public hearing. And we do.
One other hand.
Okay,
Oh, they're gone. Okay.
they're gone now. Okay, so we'll close the public hearing. Is there anybody else waiting in line? Or no?
There's 4 attendees right now, none of them with hands up, none of them with recognizable names.
Okay, okay. At this point then, we'll close the public hearing. And we do have a seeker short form to review, which I believe we have a part 2, if you can run through that, Shalice.
Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
Shalice, before you go any further, can we reemphasize or have a statement before we do one of these again for anybody that's watching, where if you don't hear anything from us, we assume the answer is low to no impact may occur. So that's what the whole thing is. Every time you ask this question, if we say nothing, the answer is no to small impact, correct? Okay. So everybody knows that. Anybody watching us, we're not just checking the boxes, we're actually answering her by not answering her. Okay, go ahead.
Thank
Will the
you.
proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies? Will the proposed action impact existing public or private wastewater treatment utilities? Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
Okay, with a completed part 2, do I have a motion in regards to the seeker determination? Anyone?
I'm looking to see if I have one. Hold on. Resolution 2020-20A? Yes? No? Does that look like the right?
2020-28, sounds right.
Okay. I'd like to make up the motion, resolution 2020-20A regarding little to no significant adverse environmental impacts as already typed.
Okay, do I have a second? Second by Derek?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, roll call.
Rick Perry,
Yes.
Reg Carter,
Yes.
Jim Abdullah,
Yes.
Marissa Gilbert,
Yes.
Derek Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Now we have the application as presented. Do I have a motion for that approval?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2020-20B, approving the application of 114 Cornelia Street, St. Peter's Church Rectory to replace their concrete staircase as presented with all like for like.
Okay, motion by Marissa. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rick. Any further comment? If not, roll call.
Reg Carter,
Yes.
Jim Abdullah,
Yes.
Marissa Gilbert,
Yes.
Derek Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Rick Perry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Father and Ray, thank you.
You. Have a great night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, 10 of 8.
Thanks, Ray.
Amazing.
Okay, was there any further items to discuss for the board? Milena, Shalice, did you have anything more to?
So I just wanted to confirm, next month, are we going to stick with Zoom or are we going to try a hybrid?
I think truthfully, until we have a chance to sit down and discuss the hybrid component where, you know, some board members may be zooming in, some board members might be at city hall. I think we'd really want to run through that a little bit, and collect
Okay.
before
Maybe Milena, you could talk to whoever's
Scheduling.
in charge and find out if that TV that's in the big open area could be moved. I know it's for a long time ago when there were so many people in the open area and someone wanted to stand outside and watch the meeting from the hall, they could. Well, nobody's standing outside in the hall to watch the meeting. Okay. So maybe they would let us appropriate that TV and hook it up in the main chamber and just find out if it's possible, because that's part of doing the hybrid.
Everything is possible, Marissa.
I think the other thing, Milena, is, you know, at the common council level, you don't have any common council members that aren't at the meeting right now, correct?
No, I believe they're all attending in person right now.
So once again, if we, you know, have board members that you know, feel the Zoom meeting is more appropriate, you know, we'd really have to test out that model where you have part of the board at Zoom and part of the board in person before we.
I think that complicates it. So I think if there are some board
Exactly.
members that aren't comfortable, I think this works.
Exactly. At this point, that may be the case. I still think we still need to have the discussion though, in terms of having a plan to transition. Actually.
Okay.
Especially if the rules all of a sudden, I don't expect that immediately, but you know.
I don't expect that for another year.
I know.
Yeah, I'm thinking they will not force people to go into real people meetings
Yeah.
for a year at least.
Well, we will, so we will continue with Zoom and have planning with staff.
Marissa, I think you're absolutely, I know that you're right about that because, you know, I know what they're dealing with at the hospital right now is reinforcing the importance of people maintaining safety protocols, in particular for people who are at high risk, which includes me. It's anyone 60 and over. You know, as people are moving inside, and the reality of that is becoming apparent, following the guidelines that we have been following, I know are being recommended by the health department.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good. Do we have any interim meeting before our next meeting? Is there something I need to remember?
Not that I know of, but Milena, Shalice, do we have it?
No, nothing.
Good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Still
Well,
early, Jim.
what's that?
Still early.
Yeah.
It'll change tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Goodbye.
Well-
I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
Okay, do you have a second?
I see
Okay.
Reg first.
I see Reg. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a great night.
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 Night.